For President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris
Well, today, Congress certified President-elect Donald Trump as the winner of the 2024 election.
That comes just 4 years after the January 6th riot that brought a mob of Trump supporters to Capitol Hill. We're going to take a look back at the legacy of January 6th in our big story today.
In a joint session of Congress today, lawmakers officially certified the 2024 general election today. It comes exactly 4 years after the riots at the Capitol delayed the certification of lawful election results. That process moving along smoothly this year. Washington correspondent Peter Zampa has the latest.
A snowy day in Washington, seeing the certification of electoral votes regain a sense of normalcy. After chaos and bloodshed derailed the election certification 4 years ago, the process much smoother this time around.
and the House come to order.
Senators and representatives gathering in the House to officially confirm Donald Trump's electoral victory in November. Presiding over proceedings, his opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, in her official duty as President of the Senate.
This announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration of the persons elected President and Vice President of the United States.
Law requires Congress to certify the election on January 6th. Now, in response to efforts to overturn lawful election results in 2021, Congress passed the Electoral Count Reform Act, which confirmed the vice president's role in this process is simply ceremonial, while also making it harder for each chamber to challenge results. No challenges lodged Monday, no riots on Capitol grounds, just a simple tabulation confirming Donald Trump's 312 electoral votes to Kamala Harris's 226.
The chair declares this joint session dissolved.
The next step for Donald Trump, of course, Inauguration Day on January 20th. The final step in what is expected to be a smooth, peaceful transition of power. Reported in Washington, I'm Peter Zampa.
President-elect Trump has repeatedly pledged to pardon Capitol rioters on day one. It's not clear who among the hundreds of convicted rioters, defendants awaiting trial, and remaining fugitives would receive that clemency. Washington correspondent Ashante Ford has that part of the story.
Of the thousands of people that marched to Capitol Hill that day, at least 1,500 are being charged with a crime. 600 of those are assaulting, impeding, or resisting an officer, some with deadly force. And now some of those same people are hoping that President-elect Trump will make good on his promise to pardon them for their actions that day. You think he'll do it?
No.
Heather Shaner represents people who were involved in the January 6 riots.
And when he admonished them to march down to the Capitol, they damn well were going to do whatever their commander-in-chief said.
And while Shaner had some limits to who she was willing to defend,
who assaulted a police officer or defecated on a congressman's desk or destroyed John Lewis's posters.
She said if President-elect Trump had plans to pardon them, he would have done it 4 years ago.
Trump says a lot of things without any concept of what has to happen for him to be able to do that. So between January 6th of 2021 and January 20th of 2021, I think the president was Donald Trump. And he could have issued a blanket pardon.
Shaner sent me a 1,500-page document listing the sentences from the riot that day, a day that Christopher Chambers, a former Homeland Security officer and current security expert, says changed security logistics moving forward.
The 6th incident was an awakening across security for law enforcement at the federal, state, and local level. So some changes have been made. Department of Homeland Security has now deemed the certification of the election results national special security event, just meaning that it's going to be a more robust, proactive stance by law enforcement, communication and coordinations, across the federal, state, and local levels.
President-elect Trump plans to hold a Make America Great Again rally at the Capital One Arena a day before the January 20th inauguration. Fencing is already going up around the nation's capital as a part of security preparations. In D.C., I'm Ashante Ford.
Meanwhile, supporters of people who were charged in the January 6th Capitol attack hosted a nightly vigil outside a D.C. jail just last night. They tell us they believe Trump will stay true to his words and pardon those who have been convicted for the attack.
Well, we'll see how all that plays out. I know that Trump is very much a man of his word. So I believe that he will follow through on good action when it comes to January 6ers.
I will support all patriots. I'll support all our J6s across the country. Because they were at the people's house. It was not an insurrection. It was the people going to the Capitol to voice their opinion.
That vigil has been going on for more than 800 days.
Nearly 1,600 people have been charged with crimes connected to the January 6th riot. However, the FBI estimates that 2,000 people may have been a part of that attack that day. Law enforcement has arrested suspected rioters across the nation, finding them in nearly every state, including 60 in Ohio. This past June, 6 Ohioans were sentenced for their roles. One of them from right here in Northwest Ohio, Joshua Coker, who's 45 and from Oregon, was sentenced to 3 years probation, 8 months of house arrest, and he has to pay $500 in restitution. Coker pleaded guilty to disorderly or disruptive conduct during a session of Congress. Documents state he walked through part of the Capitol and into restricted areas. That was even caught on camera. The FBI says Coker was part of the first group of rioters who stormed the Capitol and then went into the Senate gallery.
However, this is not the end of people being charged in the Capitol attack. Just last night, the U.S. Attorney's Office revealed it's, quote, evaluating whether to bring charges in roughly 200 new cases.
We're only 2 weeks away from Trump's inauguration. We're going to continue to stay on top of the possibility of the January 6th pardons. You can get the latest details straight to your phone by downloading our 13 Action News app. It is available as a free download in your phone's app store.